What is up, Waffle Gang? I do hope you are well. My name is Mark, and today we're checking out some more r/am I the butthole. If you'd like to skip the initial waffle, timestamps are in the description and along the timeline below. But if you are new here, please consider hitting that like, that subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. It'll all hugely help out our channel, and I can never express that enough. Now, with the waffle out the way, let's stroll on over to the first story, shall we? And it comes from Pie Shiner, who says, "Am I the arsehole for saying I don't owe my family financial support when asked to continue helping? I'm the oldest of 5. My parents have me, 18 female, my brother, 15 male, and my sister, 14 female, another sister, 12, and another brother, 10 male. Big family." My parents always struggled to afford having kids, but they kept having more, and things got even tighter over the years. At first, it wasn't too bad. It just meant no birthday parties or eating out ever. But then it became no special birthday dinners, making torn school backpacks work 3 years in a row. It meant wearing clothes a little too small, and eventually it meant eating really basic cheap meals and not saying you were hungry after. When I was 12, I started doing some odd jobs for people, and my parents would use that money to put towards the household. Then when I was 14, I became a babysitter, and that money all went to the house. When I was 16, I started a more official job and would hide some money, but the rest was taken and used for the family. I resented the hell out of it. I told my parents as much. They would say it was my job to help the family too, as the oldest, and it would be unfair to keep the money and spend it on me when they were struggling with bills and food. I moved out 3 months ago, and all that stopped. I have not given a single cent to my family since, and it's been difficult. I basically had to cut them off because the requests were endless. My siblings would ask for lunch money, money for school supplies, etc. And while I know they're kids and innocent, etc., I want to be able to stand on my own 2 feet, and I don't want to always support my family. I did when I had no choice, but now I want to be selfish. Things have fallen apart since they lost my money. They ended up defaulting on rent, and now they're in sheltered accommodation, and I'm being blamed. I told my parents it's not my job to support them, and I don't owe them that support. Now I'm the arsehole with them and my siblings because I would rather see them homeless than help again. Am I the arsehole? Some people initially want big families and they're able to support them, then come into financial difficulties and things go downhill from there. But in this story, it sounds like things went downhill gradually the more children they had, like that to start cutting back as more and more children came along. This one's a pretty clear case of don't have children if you can't support them. And OP is not the arsehole, and I feel so sorry for these children, but you need to, like you said, you're not being selfish in this. You want to look after yourself, which all these other children are going to do at some point in their life as well, because they're going to experience exactly what you've been through, and they're experiencing it right now. And for the parents to turn around and blame you and turn the siblings against you as well as manipulation is disgusting, and yeah, it's incredibly sad that they're turning your siblings against you at the same time when this is not your fault, and I hope your siblings do realise that one day in the future. But username taken says not the arsehole, but your parents are. I'd recommend calling CPS. You're an 18-year-old, you're an adult, but most 18-year-olds are still heavily reliant on their own parents, not helping keep a family of 7 afloat. With that said, you're in a situation where you could take one of your siblings in, especially the presumably relatively self-sufficient second oldest or oldest sister. That might relieve some of the pressure all around. But if you aren't in such a situation, or just flat out don't want to, that's perfectly fine also. And hanging out with you says not the arsehole. Can I correct you on one thing? And then quotes, I did when I had no choice, but now I want to be selfish. And then says, change that. I did when I had no choice, but now I need to take care of myself. Did you have kid after kid, failing to have the resources to take proper care of them? No, you didn't. Your parents did, and that's their responsibility. Also, they are abusive. If they can't provide properly fitted clothing and quality meals for their children while emotionally manipulating children to fix their own self-created problem, that is abuse. If your siblings are not happy with you now, just wait until the parents start skimming them for money. You're emotionally manipulated and abused. Now it's time for you to take care of yourself and be independent. Good for you for your hard work. And Goddess of Pure Pain says, OP, I'm going to be straight with you. Your parents need to get their act together. You aren't the arsehole, but I am wondering a few things. 1, is your mum working? And 2, what does your dad do? The Lavender Author says, not the arsehole. They should have stopped having kids. Late Impact says, not the arsehole. You didn't give birth to those children, so it's not your job to support them. Your parents abused you. I'm sure you have a lot of guilt surrounding the situation, but take care of yourself. And one more from Suze817 who says, not the arsehole. You are correct. It's not your job to support them or your siblings. They made their life choices. This is on them. Who in their right mind thinks it's okay to take all of their 12-year-old's odd job pocket money for crying out loud? Incidentally, next time they start laying blame at your feet, I'd point out that not only it isn't your responsibility to fund them, but you cannot afford to fund them and yourself. Also, they started taking money from you at the age of 12 and 3. And 3 of your siblings are that age or beyond. Maybe they need to be earning some family money and taking their turn. Not that I think that's right, but you mentioned they're all on you about it. Outrageous. Now, what do you guys make of this one? What could OP do? Should they be calling CPS? Is there anything further they can do? Or should they just look after themselves and get out of the situation? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and we'll move on to the next story. And our next story comes from Moon Author. Am I the arsehole for being honest about my religion during my mum's book club? My dad went to visit my grandma this week to help with some repairs at her home, and he has been gone a few days now. I'm 19 and living with my mum. I'm their only kid, and that has caused some tension. My mum is really traditional and tried to get me to come to church. My dad said that the moment I stopped wanting to go, I could. So when I was 7, I said I didn't want to go back, and I never stepped into another church outside of my mum's choir performances and weddings. While my mum prayed at dinner, I was never required to take part in religions that made me uncomfortable. My mum tried to send me to Catholic school and my dad said no. I guess at one point the religious battleground was so bad that they almost divorced. My mum finally agreed not to mention church to me and let me just do my thing. Looking back, I'm not really sure why my parents married and had me in the first place, but it happened and they're great 99% of the time. Religion is the only issue in the marriage. With my dad gone and me being an adult, I think my mum thought it would be time to bring up Christianity again. I came down from breakfast to find a bunch of people in our living room. I made cereal and went to take it upstairs when my mum said, "Hey, want to join us?" I said no thanks. When I brought the dishes back down, one of the women followed me into the kitchen. She said her name was Mary and wanted to talk to me. She said I made my mum really sad saying no like that and not being supportive. I said my mum knew how I felt about the whole thing and shouldn't have asked. She knew my answer. Mary tried to argue that I was breaking her heart. I told her to mind her own business because I had no interest in her religion. My mum came in to check on us and saw Mary look pretty pissed. She asked what happened. Mary said I was rude. I said Mary was rude first. I said no, this is the end of the discussion. Mum said I could have been polite and listened for a few seconds. I snapped at my mum and said, I don't care, stop asking me to be Christian, I'm never going to be. Am I the arsehole? The classic, you're the rude one because you turned down their pushy asses when they're trying to push it onto you. Absolutely not the arsehole. Now, let me just preface this by saying I'm not against any religion, and I'm not against anyone being with any religion. You know, fair play to you if that's what you want to do. That's totally up to you. Religion aside on this, you should never ever be pushy to someone. I just never understand the whole, people forcing their beliefs onto someone else, someone that's clearly shown that they don't want to be a part of that. And I've got nothing against religion or anything like that, but trying to push someone into it, it's just not right. So not the arsehole from me on this one. But Wolfenbro says not the arsehole. Religious people need to learn to not be pushy. Mum has been pushy and frankly Mary was sticking her nose in business that isn't any of hers. Mary should butt the hell out. And Ranch says not the arsehole. As you said, your mum already knew the answer and never should have asked. Furthermore, the fucking gall of a stranger to try and guilt you into a religion is inexcusable, and had it been me, she would have found out the actual definition of rude. There was a similar post on this sub recently. People need to accept the fact that people are finally waking up to the problems with religion and their numbers are dwindling. Not the arsehole. And Grumpy Gus says, sometimes people use politeness to manipulate people. These women are your elders, and within their own framework of social behaviour, you are supposed to comply and listen and be persuaded and convert. It's all so easy, and all you had to do was stand there and agree. To them, you were rude. However, they had no right to put you in that position, and were likely there entirely as a salvation intervention. You knew what she was trying to do, and she knew you weren't interested. You can't be compelled to listen to someone preach at you just because they will treat it as rudeness if you don't comply. What they did was rude, not the arsehole. And Voluntary Drynock says, not the arsehole. Your mum purposely planned on using these women to gang up on you while your dad is gone. She shows how you feel, so at this point anything rude that happens is all on her. Once you tell someone no and they continue, you are no longer required to be nice, and there is no reason you should listen for a few seconds. I live smack in the middle of the Bible Belt. I generally get door knockers a couple of times a month, though with COVID not nearly that often. Most of them are nice. I tell them thanks but not interested, and they say okay and move on. Every once in a while I get a more persistent one where I end up having to be rude to get them off my porch. I even had one stick his foot in the door when I tried to close it. I was like, what the fuck? That is a first. I opened up the door all the way and he had this smirk on his face, so I slammed the door as hard as I could, putting all my weight into it. He screamed and fell down. I opened the door back up and told him to leave and never come back. He threatened to call the cops, but I pointed to the camera and told him good luck with that, and by all rights I could have shot him if I felt so inclined. Pretty sure he was gimping around for a while, but I doubt he tries it again on anyone. And one more from Engineer who says, not the arsehole. They're rolling every coercive trick to persuade you, and it's a dick move. It's also hilariously ineffective. Ambushing you in your own house is an arsehole move, especially because I can guarantee your mum did that to sneak by your dad. Now, what do you guys make of this story? What would you do if you was OP in this situation? Maybe you have been in that situation before. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and we'll move on to the next story. And our next story comes from SlowAd3497, titled, Am I the arsehole for not wanting alcohol at my wedding and suggesting alternatives? So I'm male 22 and my fiancée female 22 just recently got engaged. We live in Southern California and plan to get married next June. The issue that came up, however, is catering. Since I have extended family in Canada and friends in New Zealand, I would like to pay for a decent reception. We are both frugal. My fiancée agrees, however, the problem is that she said we need to have alcohol at the wedding. I drink extremely rarely, and my immediate family barely does. Also, my extended family and friends don't really drink. My fiancée said her friends and family would expect us to have alcohol because it's a thing to do. I suggested we have people bring their own, or we can have an after party with drinks, but she said that if we don't have alcohol, some people might not even come, and it's an absolute necessity. Am I the arsehole for not wanting us to have to spend thousands extra on alcohol, or for also then thinking we should go without alcohol anyway? I don't want people to come to a special wedding to celebrate with us and be there just for the alcohol. I've been pushing back and she has been very angry with me. Thoughts? And there's a lengthy update on this one. Not an update, maybe some edits that replies to some of the comments and the questions. So we'll cover some of the comments first to get a gist of what's going on down there, then we'll move to the edits. So California Jade says, does your desire not to drink supersede a right to serve alcohol? Maybe if alcohol was a trigger for you, if you had a drinking problem, but just out of a sense of frugality, this seems to jump into the realm of just being cheap. You're the arsehole. And EMCCM says, people are saying it's your wedding so your choice, but it's also your fiance's wedding and she wants the alcohol. I don't drink, but I know people expect alcohol at weddings and they get crazy about it. Your fiance likely just wants to make her guests happy. It's hard to give a judgment on this. I feel like it's a not for not wanting alcohol, but a soft yes for insisting when it's equally important to her that there is alcohol. And 1-800-TURD-FERGUSON says, you don't have to have an open bar, but I swear to effing God that I will eat my cummerbund if I have to sit through another miserable alcohol-free reception. I still haven't forgiven the one friend who pulled this crap, and it's been 20 plus years. We couldn't even bribe the limo bus driver to stop at a convenience store so we could pick up booze. Maybe set up a ticketing system where everyone gets a couple of free drinks and it's a cash bar after that. Literally nobody but a hardcore teetotaler wants to sit through yet another first dance to How Sweet It Is or another wedding DJ playing September without some liquid fortitude. Your fiance wants alcohol at the wedding. Have you heard the phrase happy wife, happy life? If not, you should familiarize yourself on that one. Yes, you're the arsehole for not wanting alcohol at your wedding. And G2KY says, you're the arsehole, you're not frugal, you are cheap. If this is a sine qua non for her, I don't know if I got that right, you should accept. And in weddings, each people attending the ceremony pay for their expenses. I don't know why bring up you have family in far places. If they want to attend the wedding, they can pay for themselves. A wedding without alcohol is a no wedding for me. Now I find this one quite interesting because I remember a story we must have read about a year ago, and it is the same situation. And I remember saying something like, I find weddings, a bit boring myself when there's people not having a drink or two. And I had a lot of people on my back saying, oh Mark, you're relying on alcohol too much to have fun, blah, blah, blah. And whilst I sort of disagreed with that, I don't rely on alcohol at all, but it does create a spicy story or two. But I don't know, I'll be interested to know what your thoughts are on this one. Would you go to a wedding if there was no alcohol there? I know there are some alternatives to what OP was saying, like you could bring your own alcohol. And in the UK, like the weddings I've been to, you generally don't get free drinks unless it's like wine served on the table. You have to go to the bar and pay for yourself. Very rarely the bar is paid for because that's just craziness. But now we'll cover the edits from OP to see what they say. So edits, the family and friend from far away have an interesting relationship with alcohol, as in some past alcoholics, some against in general. Should have cleared that up. Further edit and also in the comments. Info, edit since some people have asked. The way we're going before alcohol came up was we're going to rent a community centre and have an outside caterer come in for the reception. The ceremony is at a different close by place. I'm from SoCal and so everything is price-wise is god tier now, lol. My fiance just graduated college and is starting subbing. I'm entering my senior year. I work and will work 40 to 50 hours a week and she works hard too. The money aspect is that we are trying to pay off all our loans, a decent chunk, by marriage and afford all these other things. She wants a dog, nice apartment, etc., which I totally support. Our budget for the whole wedding is 10k. Not because we're frugal, but because that's literally all we would have for it. So my money concern is just that since we're able to get everything include photography, food, cake, dress, etc. in that budget, getting alcohol too, since the community centre would then require insurance and security guards, since alcohol is ridiculous, I know, would push us way over. To be honest, I'm surprised by the absolute necessity of alcohol, but if that's the culture, I get it. I'm down to do it, but now I'm just in a hard place. I looked into it and the community centre requires alcohol to be from behind the bar, etc. So we can't do bring your own. Should I look for a completely different venue or caterer or go up with the catering drink options? The starting price for the caterer we're going with for paid bar would be around 4k for an open bar. They don't do paid bar for some reason. I apologise to my fiance by the way for not listening like I should have and putting my needs above hers without thinking. She apologised for getting heated too, and we're trying to work out how to do this. Thanks everyone for the comments. For those wondering, it is just us paying for the wedding with a very, very small financial help from parents. We are planning on paying together, but since she has more things she wants to save for / more loans, which by the way paying them off she views as a priority. She doesn't like the mention of any extra expenses. So man, it can be hard, but we're trying to just pay for it in our budget and have people enjoy it. Now, what are your thoughts on this story? Would you go to a wedding without alcohol? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and any solutions you may have for OP as well. And what are your thoughts and verdicts on the rest of today's stories? As always, I would love to hear them in the comments below if you choose to share them. Don't forget we have our very own subreddit r/Mark Narrations where you can share your own nightmare neighbours, relationships, am I the arsehole stories, or cross-post them from the original subreddits too. I strongly encourage that if you want to. Thank you so much for your love, support and time towards the channel, and I will see you in the next one. Take care guys, much love.
Boxes are defeating, purpose always fleeting. I pose questions to the ceiling like an answer gonna come. Truth is too revealing, life is easier concealing. All emotions to the start on your heart going dumb. I shouldn't be in drive more, I just wanna feel alive more. I feel hurt all the time, but I can't see straight. I've been